Hello and welcome to the Cluster API provider for AWS Community Office Hours. Today is September 15th, 2025. Just to let everyone know, we abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which boils down to please be nice to each other. We also ask that you use the raise hands feature if you would like to speak. And I have the participants window open, and so I will pass the microphone over to you. So, looks like first on the agenda, we have a PSA from Richard that 2.9.1 is released. I don't know if you wanted to say anything else about that, Richard, or not.
I guess there's one thing in there that is there was a change to the short name of one of the custom resources. So if you have any automation that is based on the short name, um, specifically AWS managed cluster template, I believe, you'll need to update that. But yeah, it's detailed in the release notes there. It clashed with an Azure resource. So if you install both providers, it had problems.
Okay, cool. So then moving on to our agenda. First, we have Fike.
I can unmute myself.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey everyone. So I wrote this proposal up for the current EKS support in Kappa. Currently, we're not able to make 133 Kubernetes 133 clusters, and that's because of a change that Amazon is making with their AMIs. So they were previously using it's like a coupling, like Amazon Linux 2 and a bootstrapping method called bootstrap.sh. And then they moved to Amazon Linux 2023 and they changed the bootstrapping to something called Node ADM. And our EKS config targets Node ADM. And there's already an issue, but when I looked at it some more, the APIs are just totally different, and so the proposal is hey, since there's different, entirely different thing from Bootstrap.sh, maybe instead of trying to rig some old fields for the new one, new fields for the old one, maybe it would be cleaner to do a whole new API resource instead. And if you're using AL 2023, or if you're trying to bring up Kubernetes 133 clusters generally and beyond, you could just use this one. And then once EKS drops support for, I think 132 is the last one they made, Amazon Linux 2 ones, we could just remove that old resource and delete that old code. Yeah, so that's the high level of this. I think the considerations are the thing most worth thinking about here when creating this. The actual API itself, I think you guys can comment on, everyone should, but I don't think that's necessarily important now. I think on a high level, it would be good to know whether or not we want this generally going. Yeah, that's all for me. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I think we probably have to also check with the official canonical EKS images as well for Ubuntu, just to check which of the two variants, or if they're using a completely different variant of bootstrapping they use in their images as well. Because I know some people use those as opposed to the Amazon Linux images. So we could just check that.
Yeah.
Like I said,
how do you actually didn't know about the existence of these images? So how would I find the upstream ones, and is there documentation that I could look at?
I think there's some documentation somewhere. We use them at work, so I've got a cluster that I can just quickly log on to and just to check for the um, distance. I don't think they publish like AWS do the I guess the source for the AMIs. They just have the AMIs available. So we just have to I guess boot an EC2 instance and have a poke around it.
Sure. And
But
is
yeah,
it 133 Kubernetes 133 or later?
good question. So the cluster I'm thinking of is actually probably before 133. So that's a bit of a that won't really help in this scenario, will it? So we'd have to create a new one. But yeah, I could have a little poke around there as well if you want.
That would be super helpful.
Okay.
Um, I have a question on this for the new API. Or I'm not seeing in a quick scan of this what happens to clusters that are born earlier than 1.33 and then are upgraded to 1.33. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a good point. So if you're a cluster born earlier than 133, like this affects workers.
Mm-hmm.
So we at work we use machine deployment. So the way that this would end up getting triggered in all this would be the machine deployment would refer to a new node ADM config template, and then also I guess AWS machine template in that case with the version update. So I think yeah, you would change the reference of the template that you're likely going to be basing all of the node ADM config source objects from. So that's how an update would work. You would change your machine deployment to use this new type when you start using 133. Because those types are immutable as far as I understand, right? Like the Bootstrap config templates are always immutable, so you have to change the reference every time. So quite works out quite nicely.
Daniel?
Yeah, just I guess compare the alternative, right? There's an open PR right now which is taking the existing controller, the existing CRD that is really designed for this Bootstrap SH method, and is kind of adding, node ADM support. If we were to go in that direction, then I think at some point on upgrade, right, need to uh, you would still need to have an updated template with different parameters, but now there would be this, uh, you know, there there would be a CRD which would kind of support fields, which would support fields that are for Node ADM and for Bootstrap SH, and you could potentially mix things up, right? Because I don't think there's one abstraction or one API that reasonably maps to both. So yeah, you would still, if you wanted to switch to the newer images, which sounds like you have to after a certain version of Kubernetes, if unless I guess you're using these Ubuntu or custom AMIs. So you have to adapt one way or another, and I think what Fike is proposing is take a little bit of the uncertainty out.
And to clarify again, this is, I guess, pending the answer on Ubuntu. Yes, right now this only affects Amazon Linux, or is it anything that uses Node ADM?
Yeah, it's very weird that these bootstrap methods and these Amazon Linux flavors are so tightly coupled together. And from what I can understand, like if you use EKS hybrid, you download Node ADM and you run that. So I don't know exactly what Ubuntu is doing, but I think they would probably be using Node ADM from the future on. But I guess even if they are using bootstrap.sh, I guess it gets a little weird because you need to like know. I doubt it. I honestly do doubt that they're using bootstrap.sh for these Ubuntu partner images, but we should double check. However, I guess you can just use EKS config in that case. But yeah, that's an unknown. I had no idea about these partner AMIs in the first place, so I don't know what they're doing. We need to investigate.
Richard.
Yeah, I'd be like you. I'd be surprised if Ubuntu wasn't following what Amazon were doing and moving to Node ADM. It's highly unlikely, but yeah, just don't want to be bitten by it. And I quite like the idea of a completely new custom resource as well. For the reason, Daniel, you said it takes out some of the, oh, if I'm using this, then I have to set these fields, or if I'm using this version specifically and this OS, yeah, it just gets real horrible and really crap user experience, isn't it?
And the validation is going to be buggy.
Yeah.
There's just so many edge cases there that um, would be difficult to cover. So my read of this is this tool is specifically for EKS nodes, that anyone making an AMI for EKS needs to use. Okay.
And though, sorry, hi team. This is Pankaj.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, Node ADM works on hybrid nodes as well on Ubuntu or anything else. So there are two different node ADMs. For hybrid, it's a different node ADM. And for EKS cluster nodes, the node ADM is part of EKS AMI. There are slight tweaks that are hybrid specific and cluster specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say hybrid, does that mean like a Fargate?
No, on-premise node.
Okay.
On-premise EKS nodes.
On-prem EKS, not necessarily Fargate.
Yeah, yeah. So EKS hybrid is it allows those pod remote networks. Basically, that's the feature I want to add. I'm waiting on authentication mode PR to get merged, which will basically allow you to create a hybrid node EKS cluster so that users can join their on-premise node as well to the EKS. So I just had one question, Fek. I hope I'm saying your name correct. I'll say Raza. Are you taking over that EKS config or Node ADM related PR, or there was existing a contributor who was working on it?
Yeah, I don't know what the original author is doing. I haven't heard back from them. So I can take it over. I have time to do it and do all this stuff. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was discussing this with Raza offline in the Slack. Like, do we really need a different API? So I'm sorry I missed the earlier discussion. The separate EKS config API.
So I think I'm hearing generally people are in favor of the new type in order to separate concerns. Um, I think having an upgrade path for users explicitly discussed in this document would be great, and getting an enhancement proposal up. What are other people's thoughts there? Does anyone see value in using the existing type and expanding it?
I was in favor of using the existing type because most of the fields that would, at least 80% fields that are already present in the node config that type that we have can be reused into EKS config. That way, from the user's perspective, eventually if they want to move to AL 2023, they don't have to make many changes. They don't have to move to a different type. But I think that also poses a limitation that how many fields that we are going to say, okay, this is deprecated for AL2, this is working for AL 2023, that makes it difficult. So I'm kind of in favor of going with the new API now. Just to separate the concern, if someone wants to use AL 2023, just use the new API, don't worry about the old one. And we can have docs about like what are the fields that can be mapped to the new API so that users find it easy to upgrade.
Okay. Daniel, did you want to say something? Okay. Richard?
Yeah, just a very minor point, and I don't know if it's an issue or not, is do we need to actually surface the fact that it's using Node ADM in our custom resource types, or is that just, are we leaking some of the implementation detail that the end users don't care about? Again, just a minor, annoying naming question, just throwing it out there.
Yeah, Daniel.
It, my initial response. That's a great question. My initial response is, yeah, we didn't do that last time, right? What we did, we created an EKS config, and that looks like it had backfired a bit, right? Because it was actually tied to a specific implementation, and so now that the underlying implementation changes, and we see at least some good reasons not to continue to use the CRD. So maybe it's actually better to be explicit. But yeah, Pankaj.
Yeah, sure. Richard, can you elaborate, like when you say expose that we are using Node ADM to the user, what would be that in terms of?
No, it was just exactly like Daniel said, is, historically, I guess when we started this, there was only Bootstrap SH. So we named, I guess, the configuration custom resource, just as hey, this is the bigger in EKS, or Bootstrap in EKS. We didn't name it on Bootstrap SH or anything like that. Whereas now we're definitely, or was proposed, we changed to naming our custom resource to match actually the bootstrapping mechanism, utility, whatever you want to call it. So it's just a departure from how we've done things in the past. So just want to be very clear, I guess, on that, and the reasoning for it. No, I'm not disagreeing, by the way. I'm just it's just different to how we've done it in the past.
I think we should, and Daniel, I like the name Node ADM config instead of just saying EKS config because that makes more sense because we are focusing on Node ADM. That way, user is also aware about by the type name itself.
Could we? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, it sounds like we have mostly like general vibes of like sure go ahead, but there's like a couple open questions. Like I guess name we can talk about. Still, I don't really feel married to any name. The Ubuntu thing, I think Richard, can you, if you can, please just get that double checked, because you had the biggest concern with it, but I do think it will be Node ADM. But yeah, I guess like moving forward, Nolan, you mentioned maybe doing a KEP, which I'm happy to do. Honestly, I would just copy most of the document that I wrote anyways into Markdown. Like it wouldn't be like that much more work. So yeah, I guess I'm really just like looking for the next steps, um, in terms of like going about not even like implementation, but like, yeah, I guess implementation and finalizing details for that. 'Cause I feel like this will be a while, and like users can't really use Kubernetes 133 right now with EKS, which is just like not good for our users, and as a user, it's not good for me. So I want to fix that.
Yeah, I think I'm next. So I think it should work with Ubuntu as well, but I'll be happy to check. I have internal resources. I can directly try that quickly on Ubuntu using Node ADM because the logic Node ADM does is it just bootstrap the processes on the machine. Um, I'll try that out if it works with Ubuntu because the source of the information comes from that Node ADM API anyhow. It's not OS specific, so should work. I'm gonna try it out.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Richard.
Yeah, just to be clear on that, Pankaj, what we're talking about is that the published images by Canonical that are for EKS, that they are using Node ADM already baked into the AMI, not that you can run Node ADM on Ubuntu.
Yeah, I'll
Two
check.
different things.
I'll check from that aspect as well in the
Ah,
canonical AMIs.
yeah, brilliant. You start.
Yep.
Okay, so I think next steps are for folks um, interested in EKS and moving that forward. Please take a look at this proposal. I think it sounds like general consensus is we want to go with a new API. Details of naming can be hashed out there. A suggestion I would make is possibly keeping this in a Google Doc until there's fairly good agreement, so you don't have to update a doc. It's easier to get feedback sometimes on Google Docs, and when you're feeling fairly confident about it, putting it into a Markdown proposal. And Pankaj, your hand is still up. I don't know if you had anything else.
Yeah, I think I have to go ahead.
Okay, cool. Thank you for bringing this up, Pike. yeah, this is super important for folks using Q133, and yeah, it's a bit of a blind spot at the moment, so we need to get that resolved. Next, Richard, you would like to talk about machine pools.
Yeah, it's just a very quick one. So it's been mentioned quite a few times in the Cappy office hours by Fabrizio and Stefan that machine pools are currently have very little maintenance of them going on. They're falling behind the rest of Cappy. And then themselves as Cappy maintainers, they only have a certain amount of hours in the day. They can't maintain everything within Core Cappy. So they basically requested that people step up and start to contribute and help to maintain machine pools specifically in Cappy. This is a really important feature area for Kappa and the other cloud providers that offer, I think, managed Kubernetes. We use it for, machine pools for EKS, for example, and on the non-EKS side as well. So if machine pools were to die, which is, I guess, the worst case scenario, is all of the managed providers would have to move to their own implementations, and there'd be, the consistency or some of the consistency between the providers would be lost. So basically, just a shout out if anyone's interested. We are kicking off tomorrow, like a machine pools working group, meeting every week. But then the idea is just to basically get machine pools maintained, actively, consistently maintained, I should say, and get it to the point where it can, at some point, move out of experimental into GA, which machine pools have been experimental for what, like 4 years or something, at least. So sort of languishing somewhere. So if anyone's interested, I know some people have expressed interest, then it'd be good. Currently 35 people said that they'll be interested. Let's see how many of those actively maintain after a few weeks. But yeah, reach out.
Daniel?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering. I'll be frank. I'm not a fan of machine pools, but I see I see their necessity, I suppose, at this point. I'm wondering, there was this machine pool machines proposal. Did that completely die, or is it just sort of just dormant? And I guess, as part of continuing work on machine pools, is there any interest in addressing some of the some of the things that maybe haven't worked so well for machine pools? And if this is off topic, then just forget it. We can talk about it elsewhere.
Yeah, if I may. So I integrated this together with another author who did this for Kappa. And we've been running the machine pool machines feature for a few weeks in our company, mainly so that each machine has a machine and AWS machine object, which gives you some options like using machine health checks, for example, which is, yeah, basically the main feature why we wanted it. It works well, I would say, and I didn't see any problems with the spec, like with the contract or something. Seems to work, but I'm not aware if any other providers have that feature at all. In Kappa, it was just integrated, so it's like super alpha behind FeatureGate for quite a while, I guess, since machine pools anyway are probably a little used. This feature might be even less used. Maybe we're the only user for now, but I think there's interest in the feature, and it makes sense to map every node to machine and AWS machine or infra machine object. So it's I would say mostly dormant. I haven't seen other interest in it yet, except for that original author who I helped to merge it. And yeah, as I said, for other info providers, no idea.
Richard.
Yeah, I'd say that I'd hope that CapZ has put machine pool machines in there, considering that two of the original authors of that proposal were from Microsoft. So hopefully they have done machine pool machines as well. Um, the other point that you made, Daniel, is yeah, so there would be appetite to, I guess, fix or change some of the annoying things about machine pool machines. So there's currently two different, I guess, lists of things that are broken, need changing or updating or writing. So it'd be good to make sure, I guess, if you have specific annoyances or suggestions that they're captured in one of these issues, because ultimately these will be, I guess, combined into a work list of things just to crank all through. But yeah, there is appetite for that for sure.
Um, Richard, do you have a meeting invite or some other resource that people can use to go participate in this working group?
Yeah, at the moment, it's just adding to the invite for the meeting, which is tomorrow. But I will also create a working group thing in the CAPI repo as well. So that will point to I guess, the doc where all the meeting notes will take place, so you can watch the recordings, and it'll put details of the meeting in there as well. Probably depending on how many people stay active, we might create I don't know, Google group instead of people can just subscribe to it instead of me just maintaining a list of people. It's quite annoying. And then at least people can email each other on the group as well. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'll put it into the CAPI working groups this week.
Cool, thanks. Okay, any more support or any more questions on that topic? Okay. Next up, Mohammed.
Hey guys, so yeah, regards the machine pool, so I replied back to the email, Richard. So would you include me to the tomorrow meetings when you have a chance to? Yeah, and this PR, it's also regards machine pool. So this PR, we need like a review and merge it. And one thing it mentioned to was to mention here is this PR it create a machine pool for the node pool that is created for Kubernetes cluster, the Rosa Kubernetes cluster. So it add like in our back role, it add the ability to create machine pool and Rosa machine pool. So that's one thing it was to mention here. And yeah, and please, if you have time to review and merge it, please let me know. I know Demiano did some review here and they fixed all the reviews. Hopefully, if anyone can approve it, would be appreciated.
Cool, thank you. And somewhat on that point, I want to ask, this is for the other maintainers, specifically for Rosa, but maybe also for EKS. Do we want to look into having sub owners for different parts of this code base? I think we should definitely be looking at API contracts and making sure they're consistent across the project. But also, I think we're starting to get some specialized areas of expertise even within Kappa. So, for instance, I know very little about EKS, and my main concern is kind of with vanilla Kappa, but also there is the Rosa implementation that is similar to but distinct from EKS. Yeah, Richard.
Historically, we had separate owners for EKS side of things, especially when it was in experimental. But then when we moved it out of experimental to GA, we removed, I guess, the sub owners for EKS. especially because large parts of it, especially on the networking side, are shared across both. But yeah, if there was a sufficient, I guess, specialization in areas, I could see benefit to having sub owners. I'm not sure that we have a huge amount of specialization, except for in the Rosa area at the moment, to warrant it. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, Mohammed.
Yeah, I have one something to explain here. So I'm already part of the Rosa sub owners, but in regards like approving the BRs and merge it, like when you do some change outside of the Rosa directories that is mentioned in the sub owners, you have no privilege to approve or or give or merge the BR. So like, is it really helpful to put people as sub owners? Maybe better like to have like general maintainers rule, but then like we know like internally when someone have code change in Rosa, so it's them like the reviewer under Rosa that are responsible for Rosa work. They need to look to it similar to EKS to other component, but having sub owners doesn't really help much in terms of approve and merge BRs, and that is not really helpful.
I may be incorrect, but I think that is a configuration that we can update, that sub owners of a branch of directories can approve within the scope of that directory. I think it's something we might have to turn on that we haven't. Um, but
Maybe it's a
someone,
misconfiguration, I'm not sure, because I see in some Rosa directories that the list of the reviewers is there for me and a couple folks, but we don't really have, like, we are not able to merge or approve BRs that only have files on the Rosa directories.
okay, I can look into that because I thought there was a configuration for that in Prow to say sub owners within a directory branch can be approvers only on that directory and below. Um,
Yeah, maybe it's general settings in the repo on what I
yeah,
can see, yeah, maybe.
yeah, it might be a Prow setting somewhere. So I can investigate that, but I think my question for other maintainers is that something we would want to pursue, um, or would we rather have a general set of maintainers still? Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, I think on the Rosa side, definitely makes sense if we can do that, so that yeah, you don't have to you're not sort of slowed down by getting one of the existing maintainers to approve it. Yeah, I don't know. Outside the Rosa area, I guess if someone became a real expert in, I guess the networking side of things, and we could put like someone on there to approve the changes to the VPC side of things. But I don't think do we have that kind of specialization at the moment? I don't think we do.
That's fair. I think we certainly don't have active specialization in that right now. Um, but based on our conversation so far, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you, Andreas, and Daniel all use EKS in your day-to-day work with Kappa. Is there any? I don't know. Damiano and I work with kind of the core Kappa types, and not a managed version. Is that a accurate statement? Okay, Andreas says he uses mostly the EC2 implementation, not an EKS is not in production, and Richard says, okay, everybody uses both. Okay, so um, yeah, we don't have that level of specialization, and I think we're also stretched for maintainer time as it is. So doing that until not adding more sub owners until we absolutely need it is probably a good idea. Yeah, Richard.
I was also just thinking about what you said, Nolan, about having different directories of where people in Prowl can actually approve or not. Because I know in something like is it test infra, obviously you can have different owners in different job directories, and so you don't have to wait to get someone else. But I think they get around that by having auto approve, but LGTM is the signal to merge. So I think if you have the code owners or the owner aliases, not code owners, but owner aliases, they can LGTM, can't they? And then that will then merge or something like that. I'm not sure if that's yeah, but I think you can do that with the proof.
Okay. That is what I'm looking for, is something that behaves like the test infra or release.
Yeah, yeah, test
Release,
infra.
release is the OpenShift repo. But yeah, we have promotion privileges for images, but I can't go do stuff on, I don't know, KubeADM.
Yeah, and I think in that scenario you do. I guess if it is how I picture it in my head is that they just require LGTM from an owner in that specific directory. Um, you would then lose the two-step approval potentially, unless I've got my understanding completely wrong.
Okay. I'll take an action item to look into this and see if it's something we can do. The OpenShift has a release repo that acts very similarly, where teams are responsible for their own proud jobs. So may be able to crib some things from that too. Okay, cool. Looks like we've got about 14 minutes left. Is there any other topics folks would like to cover? No? Okay. I'll throw one in there really quickly. Are there folks on the call that plan to be at KubeCon North America? Seeing a lot of shaking heads. Okay. I am trying to get there, so if folks would like to come talk Kappa, should be there, pending some budget discussions. So, okay, cool. That's all for this week then. Have a great weekend or week, folks. Thanks.